Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome to my garden and welcome to Show Me Your Gardens 2.0, I should say. This is the second round of Show Me Your Gardens that we've done. The first round was last fall and it was such a big hit. It was so much fun seeing all your gardens from really all around the world. We had submissions from all around the world, which was so fantastic. The goal of this series, of this video series, is to just get a chance to kind of peek in, look over the fence, and see what's going on in all of your gardens. And the way that we are dividing it up is by zones. So last fall, I started with zone 3. That was the first episode that I did, and then worked all the way up into zone 10. This summer, I'm actually going backwards and we're starting with zone 10 and we're working our way down to zone 3. And this is USDA zones. For those of you who don't live in the United States, you can Google, you can kind of look up what your zone corresponds to, because what it corresponds to is your minimum temperatures. So those of you in England, those of you in Australia, you can kind of find out what zone that you are in. So a huge thank you to all of you for submitting your videos. They are so good. I had so much fun just sitting there watching all your videos, seeing what you had to show off. It was so much fun because last fall the gardens were kind of going to sleep a little bit, but this summer all these gardens are full swing, absolutely beautiful. They are absolutely gorgeous. So I do want to say I was not able to feature everybody. Just like last fall, I don't have enough time to feature everybody. I'll have time to feature more because I limited it to 5-minute videos. So I'm going to be able to put a couple more videos into each one of my videos. But I do apologize if you submitted your video and I wasn't able to feature it, but I am holding it back and I will show it hopefully in a future Show Me Your Garden series. The first one I have actually is Matt. I remember he submitted his video last fall and I really wanted to include it in the zone 10 video, but I just had to cut it because of time. So I wanted to make sure that I got it into this round. So the very first garden I want to show you in Show Me Your Gardens 2.0 zone 10 is Matt from The Gardener's Garden. He is from Central Florida. He focuses on basically Florida-wise gardening, Florida natives, and then Florida plants that can handle the Florida heat and humidity. Let's watch.
Hey Janie, hey Jason, hey everyone. My name is Matt. I run the Gardener's Garden YouTube channel, and I want to welcome you all to my Central Florida Growing Zone 10 garden. So jumping right into it, this is my front garden area. I completely renovated the space back in May of last year. I repurposed a lot of my lawn area up closer to the house for garden beds, and I did my best to introduce as many Florida native and Florida-friendly plants as possible. As part of last year's makeover, I also completely redid the lawn area. Previously, it was predominantly bahia grass and weeds, so I ripped it all out and I installed over 230 St. Augustine sod plugs. It took about 5 or 6 months for the lawn to completely fill in, but I'm so happy with the end result. So to highlight some of the native and Florida-friendly plants that I introduced, I've got lantanas, coreopsis plants, lyre-leaf sages, many-flower beard tongue, blue salvias, I've got bush daisies. I've also got some summer annuals mixed in that I grew from seed, including giant purple zinnias, scabiosa pincushion flowers, and feverfew that are just budding up, and some even started blooming. Over here, I've got some purple gomphrenias and white bacopa ground cover, and on the right side of my mulch pathway leading up to my front door, I've got tick seed coreopsis and white verbena, as well as some forked blue curl plants. The forked blue curl is a Florida native. I've got this larger one here and some smaller ones. These plants will grow to be about 3 feet by 3 feet, and they get the coolest blue flowers on them in late summer through late fall. On the other side of my mulch pathway, I've got more white verbena, some tropical milkweed for the monarchs, and some native white tropical sages. And then between my Adirondack chairs, I've got more purple gomphrena, some white dianthus, some dusty miller, and some juncus plants. Over here to the left of my Adirondacks, I've got native pink and red tropical sages, a purple butterfly bush, and some black-eyed Susan flowers that recently got infested with scale and unfortunately aren't doing too great. Looking at my front porch area, I've got a bunch of pothos plants, some ferns, a purple oxalis planted with some silver dichondra, and an almost 4-year-old white impatient plant that's thriving. In front of my porch is my seasonal flower bed. I recently planted it up with some white gara and some light blue and dark blue scaevola fan flowers. And I've also got some containers over by my front door with some fern leaf lavender, yellow marigolds, and wire vines. I will say some of my biggest challenges with my summer garden are managing all the pests and disease. It's so hot and humid in Central Florida, and we get a ton of rain, so the bug populations have exploded. I deal with a lot of slugs and snails, aphids, scale, and with all the humidity, I get powdery mildew. My best advice for anyone gardening in a similar climate is to be proactive and apply products like Captain Jack's Bug and Slug Killer, and to apply fungicide products before there's a problem. I also recommend products like diatomaceous earth and neem oil on and around plants with noticeable pest damage. Moving to my backyard area, I've got a lot of tropical plants planted around my patio. The tall red ones in the back are Hawaiian tea plants. I've got a big fiddle leaf fig, some plumeria trees, a monstera, a philodendron, and some tired containers that need to be swapped out with some new summer annuals. Over here I've got some San Marzano tomatoes and broccoli plants that I grew from seed, as well as 2 pineapples that I propagated from pineapple tops. To the right of my patio I've got more in-ground pineapples. This one here in the middle is actually fruiting. Check out that little baby pineapple. And then in front of my pineapples, I've got an icebox watermelon vine and a zucchini plant that unfortunately has powdery mildew. And then over here to the left, I've also got a cantaloupe vine too. Over here against the house, I've got my banana grove that I planted about 7 or 8 years ago. These are all dwarf Cavendish bananas, and I've gotten a ton of bananas from them over the years. If you live in Central Florida, I highly suggest you plant some banana trees. These plants have been really fun. The last space I wanted to show you is my newly renovated shade garden area. I've got a fire pit with 4 more Adirondack chairs, and then I planted this space up with a variety of shade-loving plants, including hostas, caladiums, impatiens, begonias, ladyfinger palms, and my centerpiece plant is this huge mammoth elephant ear. It's gotten so big, it's almost 6 feet tall. Overall, this area has come a really long way. It used to be totally overgrown with ferns, vines, and weeds. It was a really fun renovation project, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video and found some inspiration for your Zone 10 garden.
Okay, who wants a banana grove? I do. And those are Cavendish. I'm pretty sure those are the bananas that like you get at the grocery store. So, man, if you live in Florida, plant some banana trees for sure. So huge thank you, Matt. He is from The Gardener's Garden. I will link anybody that has a social, a YouTube channel, an Instagram account. I will link in the description down below. So you just look at the title of my video. It'll say more, you click more, and then that will bring you to all the links that you need. So we're gonna head cross country back to California, to Mission Viejo, California, to take a look at Donna's garden. And I don't think there's anything I need to say about this garden. Just watch.
Good morning and happy Mother's Day, all you moms out there. I wanted to take a quick tour of my garden just to document what it looks like today. And it's just bursting with lots of color and perfumed air. My sweet peas are the star of the show right now, practically overtaking this fence that my husband built. Down below there's a little border. I still have a few snapdragons hanging on down there. There's Alstroemeria, foxglove, my favorite Dalmatian peach, more Alstroemeria. There's a couple little metal bunnies tucked back there, but you can barely see them now. A scabiosa that is this gorgeous pink with a green tinged edge from my friend. Let's go up and look at the other star of this show. The Claiming Eden Rose is just full of blooms right now. It doesn't get any prettier than that. And on the other side of the border, there's a salvia called Misty, which is supposed to be a smaller version of Mystic Spires. I've got some Nemesia tucked in there, lamb's ears, and then more sweet peas. And going into the walkway here on the right, I've got some bunnies and lambs, as I always do. Lots more foxgloves. These are a mix of Foxy and regular Digitalis and more Dalmatian peach. My Strawberry Hill Climber on the left could not hold any more blooms, and on the right is Lady Banks, also looking very pretty. I'm not a videographer, so this camera work is terrible. I apologize. There's more roses here. We've got the striped Marc Chagall. I've got a tiny little baby grand, which is from my old garden. She's about done for now. I have Violet's Pride. Peter Maley is popping up back there with the deep, deep pink. And coming up this last little pathway, one of my favorite plants is the Salvia Mystic Spires. That's one 2 4-inch pots that I planted a couple of years ago, but they got that large even within the first season. Down here I have a little mother of pearl rose. It's first season in my garden. Boscabelle, which is kind of finishing her best bloom right now, but still so beautiful. And Bonica shrub rose just starting to pop. And then my little corner heading to the gate, this beautiful blue and white structure my husband built me to provide more shade for my hydrangeas, which I love. This pillar on the left is a version of Thunbergia, also called Black-Eyed Susan. It's the variety Rosa Sensation. And I'm going to end with this gorgeous clematis, which is my current obsession plant right now. This is a Dr. Ruppel that I got on clearance last year after I had given up on clematis, and a friend gave me a tip to plant the type 2s deeply, and I am so glad I got her. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you see what I mean? It's just ridiculous, Donna. It's ridiculous. It's so good. Thank you for sharing that with us. Holy cow. Your neighbors must just stop and stare with their mouths open. That is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful garden. You obviously have a magic touch. I just can't believe it. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. All right, so for the next garden, let's head a little bit north now. Let's go to Berkeley, California, and take a look at Joan's garden.
So like I said, Joan's garden is in Berkeley, California, which is pretty close to San Francisco. It's kind of in the Bay Area, and you can see how beautiful Joan's garden is. Look at that. I think it's star jasmine on the back fence back there. It's just so incredibly beautiful. Lots of elephant's ears, lots of fuchsia, lots of what looks like geraniums. You can just see that everything here is absolutely thriving. And it actually does look like quite a bit of shade. But the thing I love about this is there's still so much color going on here. You can see her Verbena bonariensis, which I keep going back and forth because it reseeds for me prolifically, but I think I might just be okay with that because look at how beautiful and airy this plant is. It looks like it's in the front of her border, but you can still see right through it and see all the plants behind it, like that dark foliage plant behind it right there. It's really, really gorgeous. So I asked Joan to tell me about the plants that are thriving in her garden. She says that if it's in her garden, it's thriving. She says she loves to grow plants and she's been focusing on grasses and scent lately. Flowers are an added bonus, but you can see right now they're looking beautiful, Joan. They're looking absolutely gorgeous. She says she counts it as a success, those plants that like me and give a little bit more of themselves. Verbena bonariensis and Impatiens balfourii, which I am not very familiar with, but I need to get familiar with, are the two main givers for her this year. She says she's had little success with seeds, though she's trying. Her daughter-in-law actually sent her some floret dahlia seeds that she started indoors and now has in the sunniest part of her shade garden. She says she has about 12 of them and she's hoping for the best. And honestly, I think they're going to do absolutely amazing. You can see what she's talking about, adding in a couple grasses. She has a couple different kind of grasses in there. But the thing that I love about Joan's garden is how varied it is. And she says she says that she follows Jim Putnam's idea of one of everything, not masses of one thing, which I think is just wonderful. I mean, you can see those lilies, those dark lilies she has right there. Those are beautiful, and you don't need masses of those. Just one or two, especially in a small garden, is really all you need to absolutely enjoy it. Joan says that she's delighting in the plants that do well for me, and there are so many, and if it comes my way, she'll work with it. She says that she will keep trying with lavender and basil, so that must be the two that she tends to struggle with, which is understandable. So I asked Joan what the biggest challenges she faces in her garden, and she says the biggest challenge is the optimum amount of water for each plant in its pot. She said she's recently been trying to find terracotta pots at the flea markets and estate sales. The warnings for terracotta are that they dry out too quickly, But that right there gives her hope that she can monitor them better than the black plastic that most of her plants are growing in. And I completely agree with that. At least terracotta, it's night and day. You can tell whether a pot is dry and the plant needs water, or or not. So I am just like Joan. I'm like you, Joan. I like terracotta pots. I like growing in terracotta. If Joan could give one piece of advice to other Zone 10 gardeners, she says that you should pay attention. Get to know each plant, nurture it as you would a dear friend, and realize that sometimes even dear friends leave us, and that is okay. And I think that is great advice, Joan. It's almost like not being afraid to fail. It's okay if you do fail.
So a huge thank you to Joan for sending in a video of your Berkeley garden. It's absolutely beautiful, and the shade, it just looks so wonderful, especially when it's triple digits for me right now. But it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous Zone 10 garden. So next we are gonna head down south to Southern California, and we're gonna meet a gardener named Jasmine. Jasmine is from Flower Patch Blooms is her social. And what's cool about Jasmine is that she is a renter. So we all know that property really everywhere is so expensive, but especially in Southern California. So of course, not all of us can afford homes, and a lot of us rent. And I used to rent, my husband and I, we used to rent for years and years and years and years. And that really limited me from gardening because I thought that there was nothing I could do. I rent this place. Jasmine shows that that's not so. You should see her flower patch in this rental. It's incredible.
Hi, Janie. Welcome to my garden. My name is Jasmine from Flower Patch Blooms, and welcome to my very small flower patch. What makes my garden different is I live in a rental. The cost of living in Southern California is very high, so owning a home is a privilege here. So my garden has to be very mobile. I grow mainly in raised beds, and I also have a grow tower where I grow edibles. And just because I have a small garden doesn't necessarily mean I grow very little. I actually grow a ton in very little space. So I do most of my gardening in raised beds. This is a combination of square foot gardening along with a little bit of no-till methods. As you can see, things that grow really well for us is bee balm. Robbie's favorite is scabiosa, the classic snapdragon, and then sunflowers grow extremely well. In my vertical green stock tower, I grow strawberries, green beans, a mix of lettuces, and even a cantaloupe. So something I wish I could grow here in our rental are trees. I don't have the ability to permanently put anything in the ground, so all the trees and shrubs that I choose to plant have to be in movable containers. Thank you so much for sharing our gardens, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
So a huge thank you to Jasmine. I just think it is so great to see that, what you can do in a rental home. And it doesn't even matter how big or how small it is. You have done so much in such a small place, and it just looks like a little oasis there. So I really think that that's going to be so motivating for so many people. So thank you for sharing that. Again, I will put all the links and socials in the description down below. So we are headed back across the country. As you can see, Zone 10 is mostly California and mostly Florida. And so we're back to Florida. We're actually to Tampa, Florida, to see Charlotte's garden. And Charlotte's garden is interesting because in the past year, a lot of people's zones have actually changed, and they've either moved up or they've moved down. I think most people have moved up, I would say. So Charlotte used to be in my zone. She used to be in Zone 9, and then she got bumped up to Zone 10A. So she has had to learn over the past year or so. She has some good advice for those of you who have had to switch zones as well. So let's check in with Charlotte.
Hi Janie, welcome to the other West Coast. Charlotte here from the Suncoast region of Tampa Bay, Florida. And I started watching your channel just shortly before you moved into the new property, and at the time we were actually the same zone of 9B, but as you know, last summer some of the zones changed, and so I am now a Zone 10A here in Tampa Bay, and I have some tips for my fellow gardeners in this area, and I just have titled it Location, Location, Irrigation. Let me show you some of my garden and tell you what I mean. I know you've said that you're trying to learn more about vegetables, and a lot of that I know has to do with dealing with the challenges that you have in your zone, in your climate. And one of the things that I have obviously had take off this year is my peppers. And these are usually a full sun vegetable, as are tomatoes, but our full sun just hits different. So here in Tampa Bay, I actually have these under my pool screen enclosure, and it gives just enough filtered light that the peppers are able to thrive and be happy without scorching and burning. I've done the same thing with my tomatoes, with okra, and a few other plants, and it's really made a big difference to me. One note on irrigation for some of these containers is using the bottom watering reservoir containers. This particular one is from a brand called Tomato Tower, which happens to be based in Petaluma, California. Can't wait to check it out whenever I get out there to visit you and Fanula. My whole garden is actually fairly new. We've only lived on this property a few years, but this particular bed is something that I added this spring, and it's a raised bed that I got off of Amazon because Vigo didn't have one the exact size that I needed. So my next one will be Vigo, I'm sure. But as you can see, I've got cucumbers growing in full sun here, but then I also have an assortment of herbs, and don't forget the watermelons. Here underneath this shade cloth, my herbs are doing quite well, whereas they were really struggling before I added that on. Now, irrigation, again, is a huge issue, but this particular part of my yard, I don't have sprinklers connected. So I was able to find an Amazon solar water pump that runs this drip irrigation system just for this bed, and it feeds itself off of a 5-gallon bucket that I refill once a week. I have 2 rain barrels on my property, and I love this one because all of these succulents are so well established and just really thriving here because they like to dry out in between watering. Now, this section of my garden is the newest installation, but it is absolutely my delight this year. I have been part of a FLIP program, which is Florida Friendly Landscaping Incentive, and the county extension office actually helped me with some classes learning about the right plant in the right place. And that's the other thing about location. With those vegetable planters, I put them in a place that would work for them. In this case, I picked the plants that would work for the place. So I have some great examples of the dune sunflower, the beach verbena, our Florida native butterfly weed. I've got an olive tree that I can't wait until it's big and thriving like yours. Some sky blue cluster vine, sage, oregano, rosemary. And one of the fun plants that I was able to find is a Yalpin holly. And that is one of the only North American native caffeinated plants. And you can treat it just like tea. You can steep it green or you can roast it for a good black tea. This African blue basil over here is edible, but it's not the typical culinary basil, but it is just always buzzing with all kinds of life and pollinators, and it just brings me so much joy to be out here. Speaking of tea, this one is the blue butterfly pea flower, and it makes a really cool tea that is blue when it steeps, but then if you add lemon juice or something acidic, it turns pink and purple. So much fun to make. This whole planting bed also has a 12-inch emitter tubing all throughout the area that I run twice a day, just 15 minutes early morning and then late evening. Now, I hope that you enjoyed my video. I hope you have a chance to enjoy your garden today. And I look forward to seeing you every day on your channel. I can't miss it anytime. Bye.
Okay, don't you wish you saw that video a couple years ago? Well, okay, I should say, I wish I saw that video a couple years ago because I have been struggling with veggies for so long, and I think I'm finally coming to the conclusion that at least where I live, my location, my veggies need more shade than it says on the plant tag, right? I mean, you hear tomatoes or you hear peppers and they say the more sun, the better, but not so for all of us. It's not cookie cutter for all of us. So a huge thank you to Charlotte for sharing that, sharing your garden. Your garden is absolutely beautiful. I can't believe you've only lived there for a couple years. It's going to be magical in a couple more years. So huge thanks.
So the next garden I wanted to show you all is Hannah's garden from Redlands, California. Hannah lives in Zone 10A, and the reason why I wanted to show you Hannah's garden is the color. Hannah likes color, just like I do. Hannah, I love your garden. It's absolutely beautiful. She wrote that her home, she bought her home as a fixer-upper, and it was a classic 1950s home with lots of hedges and lots of dead and diseased plants. So most of this garden is new from what Hannah has actually put in. And I love what she's chosen. So Hannah says she's originally from the East Coast, so she was really inspired by cottage gardens, but it's a cottage garden with a tropical twist, which I just think is fantastic. So she's actually taken out a ton of the lawn in her front garden and replaced it with garden beds with more flowers. She is studying to be an acupuncturist, and so she says that gardening is what keeps her sane, and I completely get that, Hannah. So I asked Hannah to tell me what plants thrive in her garden, and she says salvias, aloe, citrus, roses, sages, hibiscus. I want to say lantana because look at that lantana right there. Oh my goodness. Rosemary, lavender. She says that she has a hard time though with plants that need a lot of water or a lot of shade, which I could see because this garden is definitely a full sun garden, and I know Redlands, California is pretty dry. So she says that she wishes that she could plant echinacea, but they never come back and they never bloom when she plants them from seed. So it looks like we're headed to Hannah's backyard right now. I wanted to show you all this mural because look at this beautiful mural. See what I mean about Hannah liking color? She definitely likes color, and it is absolutely beautiful. So I asked Hannah what the biggest challenges she faces in her garden, and she says not enough water and hot, dry heat that can be unforgiving triple digits. I totally get it. Totally get it. And I'm sure a lot of us in Zone 10 get it as well. She also says that she has a challenge with not enough chill hours for some plants and fruit trees and grass that she keeps trying to kill and convert into garden beds, but can't seem to get rid of it. If Hannah could give one piece of advice to other gardeners in Zone 10, she says, try it, and if it dies, don't give up on gardening. It's a constant experiment, and why not try? The worst that can happen is that you are out a plant and out some money. Good soil and irrigation go a long way. Walk around your neighborhood and see what other plants are thriving in your area. And I think that that is fantastic advice. So we can see here that Hannah has some beautiful raised beds with sunflowers and some veggies growing, some gorgeous, gorgeous alliums. Looks like some salvia, leucantha, some roses. Oh, this is just really, really beautiful. And I love gardens like this that look like they've been there for a while and are just starting to get revived, just starting to get a new life to it, which is what looks like Hannah's doing to this garden. And I really love it.
So a huge thank you to Hannah for submitting your garden. I don't think I said in the voiceover, but Redlands, California is in Southern California, and it's about halfway between Los Angeles and Palm Springs. So if you can imagine that, that's pretty dry, deserty area. So it's definitely hot there. So the fact that Hannah can grow all those beautiful plants is just really shows what a great gardener she is. So thank you to Hannah. Thank you to the other gardeners in this episode. And thank you to all of you who did submit. Again, I apologize, but don't worry, we'll get your gardens out there eventually. And thank you so much for sharing them with us. So make sure you stay tuned for Zone 9. That is coming out tomorrow. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your gardens today.